Dr. Stone, we've had another question in for Ask the Evangelist. This time, is it appropriate to evangelise someone of the opposite sex?
I think this all has to do with numbers. A preacher once said, quoting the Old Testament books, that there's safety in numbers, but sometimes you're better off in an exodus. And I think that's absolutely true. I would certainly recommend that a younger evangelist like yourself, it would be very dangerous for you as a single young man to approach a young lady on the street who is by herself. I think that could be totally misunderstood and certainly could be a very big bait for the enemy. I think when there's a group of you together, and that's why always over the years we've encouraged to honour what Jesus said. Jesus sent out his disciples 2 by 2. And so in that sense, there was safety in numbers. If there's 2 of you or more, then of course you could approach anybody. I again would say that if you were 3 young men, I would not think it appropriate for you to approach a young lady. So therefore, in open air work, it'd be far more sensible for you to have at least one lady in your group that is working. And you know, the world has a saying that pride comes before a fall. And we have to recognize that all of us are, first and foremost, human beings. And we have the same feelings, we have the same attractions, we have the same temptations as anybody else. And therefore, it could be morally dangerous for you to engage in a conversation with a young girl if they, again, it works in reverse, that if there are a couple of guys and a girl or a couple of girls and a guy, obviously you could quite safely approach that group. But we need always to be aware that the devil is on the prowl and would catch us out. And for many who are watching this particular edition of Ask the Evangelist, maybe they would be honest and say, well, yes, my weakness is an attraction to the opposite sex. Well, you don't walk into the lion's den with that kind of thought to present yourself into a situation which could be dangerous. So I think the safest thing is to say, don't get engaged in conversation with someone of the opposite sex unless there are others either with you or, in your case, with her. Abide by those rules, and I don't think you will get too much in danger. There is a time to preach, but there's a time to flee as well. And so if the devil is using a situation, flee from it. That's my advice.
I read that Dr. B. Graham, he never allowed any member of his team to be in a room one-on-one with a member of the opposite sex. Is that because of the same reasons as you've just mentioned?
Yes, and more. In the years that I spent with the Billy Graham organisation, Dr. Graham would never, ever have any lady except his wife or his daughters or a close relative alone with him in a room. His secretary, his personal secretary, always there had to be somebody in the room when they were going through their business. The reason for that, Josh, is not only did he recognise the things I've just said, but also if the press, because he has always been an international figure, that if the press got hold of a story, they could twist it if he was seen with one woman other than a relative in a room or a situation. And he was and is still a very wise man, and God has honoured him through the years for it. So let's copy some of these men. They're our heroes, and they can teach us a thing or two.
That's really helpful, thank you.
If you want to ask the evangelist, please drop a message via Facebook, on Twitter using the hashtag AskTheEvangelist, or email me. You can also check out our website. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Ask the Evangelist. I pray that you've been blessed and encouraged by it.